can now speak with Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera's senior political analyst. He joins us from London. Good to have you back with us, Marwan. So first of all, let's start with some of the signals that have been coming out of places like London, where you are. There have been reports about similar signals in the US, that the US is and the UK might be considering recategorizing the HTS and taking it off of its terror list. What does that tell us about how Western capitals are viewing the transition that's happening?
How they are viewing and how they have been viewing, Sami, because I think this is not new to them. I think the past decade or so, they have not stayed out of the affairs of Syria. And they certainly have been paying attention, close attention, to all sorts of organizations, including those that they deem terrorist organizations like Hayat, Tahrir, Sham, to see what is possible, what is not. Could they be dealt with? Not. Could they be a potent force in the future of Syria or not? So I think various intelligence agencies and other agencies within the UK and the United States have certainly been involved, have certainly been in touch, have certainly been surveying and been better understanding the type of organizations like HTS. So I think none of this really is new. Now, of course, the story hasn't been told yet. I think the next, days and months, even years, we will know more. But I tell you, none of what is happening now is a surprise. I think London knows what is going on and is probably quite familiar with HTS.
Okay, something new that is going on. We've seen Israeli forces take more Syrian land. What does that tell us about where things are heading on that side of the border?
Well, here we go again, a bit of history, right? You and I, like to talk about that. It's very important. So for the past decade, Israel has been hiring mercenaries in the southern part of Syria and in the part bordering the Golan Heights, the occupied Golan Heights. And in fact, according to different reports, they were paying salaries like, I don't know, $100 a month to those disaffected by the Assad regime. And in fact, since 2017, they've actually, hired thousands of Syrian fighters in the southern part of Syria. So Israel has been involved in Syria. And now it has taken the opportunity of Damascus being preoccupied with a change of regime in order to expand their presence on the Golan Heights and perhaps beyond. They call it temporary, but we know that whenever Israel says temporary, for example, its occupation of the West Bank, it's been almost 6 decades.
And what do you make of this, Marwan? The NATO Secretary General on Monday saying Russia and Iran were complicit in the crimes committed by the Bashar al-Assad regime. Now, we do know, of course, that the United Nations, in a commission of inquiry in 2013, did talk about war crimes being committed and that the responsibility was at the highest level, even at the head of states level, Bashar al-Assad. But this coming from NATO countries, which are also supplying weapons to a military that is carrying out what 34 UN experts on November 16th of 2023 called a genocide in the making, what Amnesty International just last month called a genocide.
You would expect that, right? Hypocrisy and double standard are part and parcel of both Russian and American, both Iranian and British foreign policy. And the way they try to sell the world about how they are holier than thou. But in the end of the day, both sides have been complicit in Israel's war crimes and in Assad's war crimes. Assad's war crimes and the Assad family have been there for 50 plus years. The dictatorship in Palestine, in the name of Zionism, has been there for something like 75 years. And the crimes committed against the Palestinian people from the Nakba onward, up and until this year with the genocide unraveling in Gaza, certainly has been done with the direct role and sometimes indirect complicity of Western powers. That includes France, the United Kingdom, and certainly the United States. And in fact, just like Putin was, arm in hand with Assad, so was the Biden presidency with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who now we all know is basically indicted for crimes against humanity. His government is implicated in genocide and so on and so forth. So there is no doubt that Assad carried crimes against humanity and against his own people. And really, the images that we're seeing and that we've studied over the years from Sednaya and other places really tell you the horrors that the Syrian people, the heroic Syrian people, had to go through for decades. And the same thing really goes for the Palestinian people. I think neither side should be lecturing us about values and principles and international law when both sides have been complicit in crimes carried out in the Middle East.
Marwan, always good to talk to you. That's Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.